Imagine you're walking down the candy aisle, friends, surrounded by a rainbow of wrappers, each one whispering promises of sweetness and nostalgia. It's a familiar scene, isn't it? The crinkle of foil, the bright reds and blues. The anticipation of a quick treat that takes you back to simpler times, maybe trick-or-treating as a kid or sneaking a chocolate from your grandma's candy dish. Candy feels like the ultimate innocent pleasure, a little escape from the weight of the world. But what if I told you that some of these sugary delights are hiding something far darker than you could ever imagine? What if I revealed that behind those cheerful packages are stories of spiritual deception, occult practices, and symbols designed to slip past your defenses? Welcome to the Untold Scriptures, where we shine a light on the truths the enemy doesn't want you to see. Today, this isn't just about candy. It's about protecting your heart, your home, and your family from influences you never even knew were there. So, grab a seat, open your Bible, and let's dive into a journey that will change the way you see that candy bowl forever. The Bible tells us in Ephesians 5 verse 11, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." That's our mission today, friends, exposing the deeds of darkness hidden in plain sight. The enemy is clever, oh so clever. He doesn't always come at us with fire and brimstone. Sometimes, he slips in through the things we least suspect, like a chocolate bar or a gummy bear. These aren't just treats, they're tools, subtly crafted to plant seeds of spiritual compromise in our hearts and, even more concerning, in the hearts of our children. I know this might sound like a stretch, candy really? But stick with me. Because by the time we're done, you'll see these so-called innocent sweets in a whole new light. We're going to start with a name that's practically synonymous with American chocolate. The Hershey Company. Founded in 1894 by Milton Hershey, this company feels like the epitome of wholesome, all-American goodness. Who hasn't unwrapped a Hershey's Kiss, felt that satisfying crinkle of foil, and smiled at the little chocolate teardrop inside? It's iconic, a staple of birthdays, holidays, and every candy aisle in the country. But let's peel back that shiny foil and take a closer look. Milton Hershey wasn't just a candy maker with a knack for chocolate. He was a man deeply entangled in the world of Freemasonry. Now, if you're not familiar, Freemasonry is a secret society with rituals and teachings that many Christian scholars warn are fundamentally at odds with the teachings of Jesus Christ. The Bible is clear in 2 Corinthians 6 verse 14, "Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness?" Yet, Milton Hershey was drawn to this shadowy world, and its influence seeped into his company in ways that are nothing short of chilling when you start to connect the dots. Take the Hershey's Kiss, for example. That shape, small, conical, almost like a tiny pyramid, might seem like a clever design choice, but it has echoes of ancient symbols used in pagan fertility rituals. These rituals, often dedicated to goddesses like Ishtar or Astarte, used conical shapes to represent creation, rebirth, and spiritual power, concepts that the Bible explicitly warns against. Deuteronomy 18:10-12 tells us, "Let no one be found among you who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord." Yet, here we have a candy that millions of us have handed to our children, completely unaware of its symbolic roots. And it doesn't stop there. The Hershey's logo itself, when you squint and look closely, has a design that subtly incorporates shapes resembling pentagrams, those five-pointed stars long associated with occult practices. In early advertisements from the 1900s, you can find imagery borrowed straight from Masonic symbolism: pillars, all-seeing eyes, geometric patterns that carry hidden meanings for those initiated into the society's secrets. Now, you might be thinking, come on, it's just a logo. It's just a piece of chocolate. But Jesus himself warned us in Matthew 6 verses 22-23, "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness." What we see, what we consume, even visually, shapes our hearts and minds in ways we don't always realize. The enemy knows this. That suggests Milton Hershey consulted with spiritualist mediums during the founding of his empire. These weren't just business advisors, they were people claiming to channel spirits, offering guidance that Hershey believed would bring him success. Think about that for a moment. A man building one of the world's most famous candy brands was seeking wisdom from sources the Bible calls detestable. And those early production lines? Some say they were blessed by occult practitioners, rituals meant to infuse the candy with spiritual power. I don't know about you, but that makes me think twice before reaching for another Hershey's bar. This isn't just about one man's choices, though. Hershey's has woven itself into the fabric of our culture, showing up at every major holiday, Halloween, Valentine's Day, Easter, moments when our guards are down, when we're celebrating with family and friends. That's when the enemy loves to strike, wrapping his influence in something as innocent as a chocolate kiss. But we're not here to live in fear, friends. We're here to be wise, to discern, to protect our families from the subtle traps the enemy sets. Proverbs 22 verse 3 says, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." So, let's keep going. The company behind M&M's, Snickers, and a whole lineup of candies that fill our stores and our homes. Founded in 1911 by Frank Mars, this company has become a global powerhouse. But its origins are far from the colorful, playful image it projects. Frank Mars wasn't just a businessman with a sweet tooth, he was a man deeply immersed in astrology, a practice the Bible warns against time and time again. Leviticus 19 verse 26 is crystal clear: do not practice divination or seek omens. Yet, Frank Mars named his company after the Roman god of war, a deity tied to bloodshed, violence, and pagan worship. Every time we say Mars, we're unknowingly invoking the name of this demonic entity. That alone should give us pause, but the story gets darker when you look at the candies themselves, especially those iconic M&Ms. You know those little characters on the M&M's commercials, the red one with his attitude, the green one with her sass, the yellow one with his goofy charm? They seem so fun, so harmless, right? Kids love them, and we laugh at their antics in those clever ads. But what if I told you those characters aren't just random cartoons? Some researchers suggest they were deliberately designed to represent different psychological disorders, subtly normalizing dysfunction in the minds of children. The red M&M with his brash, angry demeanor could symbolize rage or impulsivity. The green one with her seductive vibe might hint at unhealthy desires. The yellow one with his dim-witted persona, not to God, and I do not want you to be participants with demons. By turning these characters into icons, Mars is conditioning young minds to accept chaos as normal, even fun. And then there's that famous slogan, "Melts in your mouth, not in your hand." Catchy, right? But some Christian scholars argue it carries a deeper, more troubling meaning. In occult traditions, the idea of something melting into you is symbolic of spiritual absorption, ideas or influences seeping into your soul without you even noticing. The rainbow of colors on M&Ms isn't random either. In ancient pagan practices, colors were used to represent different spiritual forces. Red for blood sacrifice, yellow for solar worship, green for earth-based paganism. These aren't just pretty hues. They're coded messages, drawing from witchcraft traditions that predate Christianity. 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14 reminds us, Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. And what's more light-filled than a bag of bright, shiny M&Ms? But the darkness doesn't stop at the candies themselves. There are stories, whispers really, because people are afraid to speak out about strange practices in Mars factories. Former employees have reported seeing occult symbols chalked on factory walls, especially during peak production times like Halloween or Christmas. Some say practitioners were brought in to bless the production lines, performing rituals to infuse the candies with spiritual energy. Internal documents, though hard to come by, hint at a marketing strategy that goes beyond selling sweets. They talk about spiritual programming through sensory pleasure, using taste and texture to open people's minds to influences they don't even realize they're receiving. Mark 8 verse 36 asks, What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? When we pop an M&M without a second thought, are we unwittingly opening a door to something darker? Let's turn our attention to Nestlé, the Swiss multinational behind Kit Kat, Crunch, and countless other confections. Founded in the 1860s by Henri Nestlé, this company has built a reputation for quality and innovation, but there's a side to its story that doesn't make it into the glossy commercials. Henri Nestlé wasn't just a pioneer in nutrition. He was a man fascinated by the occult, particularly the concept of spiritual alchemy. This esoteric idea, rooted in European secret societies, holds that certain substances, food. In ancient pagan rituals, breaking objects was a symbolic act meant to release spiritual forces or break barriers between the physical and spiritual realms. The four-finger design of the Kit Kat mimics hand positions used in witchcraft ceremonies, where specific gestures were believed to channel power. And that jingle, "Give me a break." Give me a break, it's catchy, sure, but some argue it's more than that. It's a subliminal command, urging you to let down your spiritual defenses, to break your resistance to outside influences. Ephesians 6 verse 12 reminds us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Nestlé's ties to the occult don't end with symbolism. The company's headquarters in Switzerland sits on land that was once used by ancient Celtic tribes for pagan rituals. Now, you might think, that's just history. It doesn't mean anything today. But here's the thing. Nestlé has never performed any kind of spiritual cleansing on that land. In fact, leaked documents from the 1990s suggest that Nestlé executives regularly consult with spiritual advisors, people practicing divination, to guide major business decisions. These aren't your typical consultants. They're individuals claiming to tap into supernatural forces to steer the company's path. And in Nestlé's research facilities, there are reportedly rooms dedicated to what they call sensory spiritual research. They're not just testing flavors. They're experimenting with how tastes and textures can influence human consciousness, opening doors to spiritual vulnerabilities. Matthew 24 verse 24 warns, "False messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive, if possible, even the elect." The enemy doesn't need miracles to deceive us, sometimes. All it takes is a cleverly designed candy bar. And as we move forward, the next brand will take us into even darker territory. Let's talk about Haribo, the German company that brought us those chewy, bouncy gummy bears we all know and love. Founded in 1920 by Hans Riegel, Haribo seems like the epitome of fun, with its playful candies shaped like little bears, fruits, and worms. But there's a darkness lurking beneath that sugary surface, one that ties back to some of the most troubling spiritual movements of the early 20th century. Hans Riegel wasn't just a candy maker. He was a member of the Thule Society, a secretive occult group in Germany that later influenced the spiritual ideology of the Nazi Party. The Bible warns us in 1 Timothy 4 verse 1. The Spirit clearly says that in later times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. And Haribo's origins suggest it's more than just a candy company, it's a vehicle for those deceiving spirits. The gummy bear itself, that cute little chewy treat, has roots in ancient Germanic pagan traditions. In those cultures, bears were seen as sacred animals, bridges between the human world and the spirit realm. The act of eating a bear-shaped candy wasn't just about enjoying a snack. It was designed to mimic ancient communion rituals, where consuming something symbolic was believed to impart spiritual power. The Haribo logo reinforces this, with hidden runic symbols, letters used by ancient Germanic tribes in magical practices, woven into its design. And the golden bear mascot? It's posed in a way that mirrors idols used in bear worship ceremonies, a stance meant to invoke spiritual forces. The colors of the gummy bears, red, yellow, green, white, and orange, aren't random either. In Germanic witchcraft, these colors correspond to the 5 elements: fire, air, earth, water, and spirit. Eating them in certain combinations was believed to channel specific spiritual influences, a practice that Haribo's creators were well aware of. And that chewy texture? It's not just for fun. The prolonged chewing time forces you to focus on the bare imagery, almost like a meditative act, subtly programming your mind. 1 John 4 verse 1 urges us, "Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God." Yet, Haribo's manufacturing process seems designed to bypass that testing, drawing consumers into a ritual they don't even realize they're participating in. Former employees have shared stories of strange practices at Haribo's German facilities. During full moon cycles, supervisors reportedly perform enhancement rituals, burning incense and chanting to charge the gelatin used in production. New workers are even required to participate in so-called team-building ceremonies that involve consuming specific gummy bear combinations while reciting phrases that sound eerily like incantations. Haribo's internal training materials talk about connecting consumers with ancient wisdom through their candies. Luke 11 verses 24 to 26 warns us about evil spirits seeking to inhabit and influence. And Haribo's practices seem tailor-made to create that kind of vulnerability. But hold on, because the final brand we're about to discuss is so shocking. It might just make you rethink your entire candy stash. Let's dive into the world of Ferrero, the Italian company behind the luxurious Ferrero Rocher chocolates. These golden-wrapped treats scream sophistication, don't they? They're the kind of candy you give as a gift, something you bring to a holiday party or share during a special moment. Was deeply influenced by Italian esoteric societies that practiced what they called confectionery magic, the belief that certain ingredients, when combined and consumed, could create spiritual enchantments. Galatians 5 verse 20 lists witchcraft among the acts of the flesh, warning us to steer clear. Yet Ferrero built his empire on principles that align with these forbidden practices. The Ferrero Rocher itself is a masterclass in deception. That golden wrapper isn't just for show. It's designed to mimic the golden orbs used in ancient sun worship rituals, where unveiling the orb symbolized revealing hidden spiritual knowledge. The spherical shape of the chocolate ties into the occult concept of the world egg, a belief found in many pagan traditions that consuming a sphere-shaped object allows spiritual forces to hatch within you. The hazelnut center represents a seed of corruption. The wafer shell symbolizes the human soul, and the chocolate coating is the deceptive sweetness that makes it all go down easy. 2 Corinthians 11 verses 13 to 14 warns, "For such people are false apostles, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light." Ferrero Rocher is the perfect example of this masquerade, beautiful on the outside, but potentially dangerous on the inside. What's even more troubling is how Ferrero targets Christian holidays. Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, these are times when Ferrero Rocher becomes a staple, gifted and shared during moments of spiritual significance. The company knows that these occasions, when our hearts are open and our guards are down, are the perfect time to slip in their influence. Their Italian production facilities are built on land once used for Roman mystery religion ceremonies, and like Nestlé, Ferrero has never cleansed these properties of their spiritual history. Designed to awaken something in the consumer, but it's not an awakening to God. Matthew 7 verse 15 warns, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing." I want to leave you with a challenge, friends. These 5 candy brands, Hershey's, Mars, Nestlé, Haribo, and Ferrero, may seem like harmless treats, but their roots are tangled in practices that go against everything we stand for as Christians. The enemy is cunning. He doesn't always come with horns and a pitchfork, sometimes, to watch out for those wolves in sheep's clothing. So, I urge you, take a look at your pantry, think about the candies you're giving your kids, and ask yourself, what am I really bringing into my home? Share this video with other Christian parents who need to hear this truth, and let's spread the word about these hidden deceptions. Comment below with the country you're watching from, and tell me which of these brands shocked you the most. Subscribe to the Untold Scriptures for more revelations that will open your eyes to the enemy's schemes. May God protect you and your loved ones from all forms of spiritual deception, and until next time, stay vigilant, stay prayerful, and keep seeking the truth.